Okay. Now, the third thing that Sulaiman the First did in order for him to control religion, not only religion, but yes, to control religion, let's keep with that, that he defined to the people what was legal and what was illegal in his society, and he did not just stop there. No, he continued saying what he published them, and everyone knows now about the legal things and the illegal things in his society. So no one will do a bad thing or a wrong thing, and he will come to Sulaiman the First saying, well, I did not know about that. No, Sulaiman will say, you know about that, and I told you because I published them in my empire, saying what is legal and what is illegal in my society. So he controlled now the law under the name of the Islamic Sharia and the policy of theocracy, saying anything in the name of God. Continue about this, they're saying, which is point number 4, that ulama and the Sharia were that Sulaiman the First used the ulama and the Sharia to help him to what? To govern his empire. Correct? Yes. So he created this Sulaiman the Magnificent. He created something in order for him to make it easier for him to control the ulamas and the sharia more, and to become the reasons that will help him to success his absolute monarch. He created what? He created a comprehensive legalistic code of laws, which means that he made laws written, contains everything about his empire. In Arabic, guys, comprehensive in Arabic means shamil, so it talks about everything about law, and it was written down. So why did he do that? In order for him to prevent problems later on in his empire. So how did Sulaiman the First, control the religion? He controlled the religion by controlling the religious institution, by controlling the ulamas under theocracy. He controlled the education institution by controlling the local village schools and the giant madrasas, and maintaining the Islamic Sharia. He defined what was legal and illegal in his society and published that. And finally, he created a comprehensive legalistic code of laws to prevent problems, and those were the reasons for the success of his absolute monarchs. Now, replacing the Sultan in the Ottoman Empire, guys, it was so hard and very tough and very difficult system. What about it? The Ottomans, guys, focused on teaching the young emperors, the emperor's sons, to be emperors from a very, very, very young ages. They wanted to teach them how to become great leaders. So they started with what? Taking them into small provinces and small villages and small lands in order for them to control small number of people, and teach them how to govern a small and to be a leader over a small number of people from a very young age. We're talking about emperor's sons. Then they would take them later on, after finishing this first level, they would take them to second level, which is moving up to medium-sized towns. Finally, they would take them where they would move into a larger cities to gain what? Leadership, command, control experience. So step by step, the emperor's sons with a very young age, they will become what? Great leaders. They would be taught how to control small number, larger, and then the larger land and larger people, and they will gain leadership, commands, and control experience in a very good way. Now, again, the country was controlled, the Ottoman Empire was controlled with what policy? With theocracy, which means a system of government in which the priests, at that time, the priests we're saying here about Sulaiman because he was the head of that religion, in which the priest ruled in the name of God or a god. Sometimes it reached in other lands or other places, theocracy reached that this emperor is making himself as a god and saying that I am the god and da 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 da. He's continuing giving orders. But here he will say in the name of God. Sulaiman the first was saying in the name of God. So he's saying whatever I will say you must obey because I'm taking my words from God. Okay, like passengers. Now, the Ottoman Empire, guys, wanted to prevent problems between the brothers and sons after the death of the emperor. So they wanted to prevent what? Law of succession. What is the meaning of law of succession, guys? Which is the law regulating the inheritance of property, which means what? In Arabic, guys, wirathi. So they wanted to prevent this law of he is my father, I'm the older, so after his death I'm gonna take it. This will make so much problems because the other brothers, they will be like jealous and they will try to kill him, and now we're gonna have problems. So they wanted to prevent this law of succession. What was the thing that they need to follow with? They used the policy of what they used the policy of what? Fratricide. So they used the policy of fratricide. What is the meaning of fratricide, guys? Which is the killing of one's brother or sister. So they wanted to use this policy that before the death of our father, we need to follow the policy of what? Fratricide, which means I'm gonna find a way to kill you, my brother or my sister, to be one single man standing. So later on, I'm gonna be the emperor. So, in other words, when all the sultan's sons reach the ruling age, each had to form what? His own plan to execute his brothers to stay alive, and the last man standing, he would be the emperor. This is the policy of fratricide in order for them to prevent the law of succession. Now, the military power in that time, in order for him, in the Ottoman Empire, they believed in order for you to have a powerful army, you need to be what? Loyal to the empire. And you need to be loyal to the emperor himself. So the Ottomans used a form of what? Of provincial conscription, which means what? Which means in Arabic, guys, which means تجنيد الإقليمي. So it's what? It's an obligated thing. It's a required thing. When you buy, it's obligated by law that each one and single man in this empire must go and serve in the army, and he must be in the into the what? The armed forces in a province of a country or an empire. So they must be according to the law. It's obligated for each one and in this country to go and serve in the military for the good of the empire. They would do what? They would select young men, and especially from Christian peasant families, so they are poor and they're not Muslims, and they're gonna use them, like take them from very young age. Then they're gonna do what? They're gonna raise them as Muslims. They're gonna teach them how to become Muslim, and this is Islam, and this is God, and about prophets, and so on, so that so they're gonna raise them as Muslims. So later on, they can train them to serve the emperor and his governing bureaucracy and be loyal to the Muslim emperor because now they're Muslims, not Christian anymore. The selected young men, they would do what to them? They would feed them, clothe them, train them, carry for them. And who will be responsible about all of these, the four things? The emperor himself. He will be responsible about them. So later on, when they're being older men, they're gonna do what? They're gonna be extremely loyal to this emperor who fed them and clothed them and trained them and cared for them and took them out from Christianity. The very famous subgroup and special force for the emperor soldiers who were dominated themselves for the good of the empire and the battles, their name was the Janissaries. And the Janissaries, guys, if we want to define them, the most famous subgroup and the special forces soldiers who were dominated in the battle working for Sulaiman the First at that time. That's okay. After Suleiman the first, guys, he died when in 1566. Who took the throne? His son Suleiman the second. But he became the emperor, but he was a very like bad emperor. His aftermath, the bad things after him taking the throne: three things: corruption through the military and through the governmental institutions. So it was like corruption everywhere, bad things everywhere. Agriculture failures, so agriculture went down and it was bad and it was not good. And the third thing, European power rised up and slowly they took territories from the Ottoman Empire, and Ottoman Empire lasted until the year of 1918, and this was the end of the Ottoman Empire. That's it for today, guys. If you have any question, you are so welcome to ask me.